Yo, what's good, story lovers? It's your boy John Doe, back with another banger of a tale that's gonna have you glued to your screen. Okay, maybe not literally glued, but you get me. Grab your coffee, your blanket, or that sneaky midnight snack. Y'all know I'm not judging. And let's dive into some epic storytelling. Today we're kicking off a wild ride set in rainy Atlanta, where a single mom named Amara accidentally hops into the wrong car and ends up face to face with a cocky millionaire, Elijah. Spoiler, it's not just a car ride, it's a whole life changer. Picture this: pouring rain, a baby in tow, and a dude who thinks he's king of the world. Will sparks fly, or will it crash and burn? Chuckles. I'm already hooked, and we haven't even started. So, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment with your wildest wrong car story. Come on, we've all got one. And let's get lost in this soulful, dramatic, laugh-out-loud journey together. All right, enough of my yapping. Let's read. Here we go with part 1, A Rainy Mistake. The rain came down in sheets, turning Atlanta's downtown into a blurry mess of neon lights and slick pavement. Amara Wilson, 32, clutched her 6-month-old daughter, Nia, tight against her chest, the thin denim jacket doing little to shield either of them from the November chill. Her sneakers, worn thin from months of hustle, squelched with every step, water seeping into her socks. She glanced at her cracked phone screen, 7:20 p.m., 20 minutes late for her second job interview of the day. The first one had been a bust. The manager took one look at Nia, strapped to Amara's chest in a second-hand carrier, and said, "We need someone without distractions." Amara had bitten her tongue, nodded, and left. She didn't have the luxury of pride, not when rent was due in 3 days, and the power company had already cut her electricity once this month. She hurried toward the bus stop on Peachtree Street, the wind whipping rain sideways, stinging her face. Nia whimpered, her tiny hands curling into Amara's shirt. "Shh, baby girl, we're almost there," Amara whispered, bouncing her gently, but inside panic clawed at her. She'd spent her last $15 on an Uber to make this interview. After the babysitter bailed at the last minute, no one else could watch Nia. Not her mom, who'd passed from cancer 2 years ago, and not Nia's deadbeat dad, who'd vanished the moment Amara told him she was pregnant. It was just her and Nia against the world, and the world was winning. The bus stop was a flimsy metal shelter, offering no real protection. Amara tucked Nia deeper under her jacket, her own body shivering as she scanned the street for headlights. Her phone buzzed. A text from the Uber driver. Stuck in traffic. 10 minutes away. 10 minutes might as well be an hour. She'd already be half an hour late by then. And Morgan Financial wasn't the kind of place that waited for latecomers. She needed this job. Administrative assistant, stable hours, health insurance, a lifeline for her and Nia. Without it, she didn't know how they'd make it through the month. A sleek black Tesla Model X pulled up to the curb, its tinted windows gleaming under the streetlights. The back door swung open. Amara didn't think twice. Her Uber must have made it early. She ducked inside, cradling Nia, and blurted, "Thank you so much for getting here. I'm so sorry, we're running late. I really appreciate—" Her words died in her throat. No driver sat in the front seat. Instead, a man in his late 20s lounged across from her in the back, dressed in a tailored navy suit that probably cost more than her rent. His dark hair was slicked back, his sharp green eyes narrowing as he took her in. He wasn't her Uber driver. He was someone else entirely. "This isn't Uber, lady," he said, his voice cool and clipped, like she'd just spilled coffee on his pristine world. "Get out." Amara's face burned, embarrassment mixing with the cold seeping through her soaked clothes. Nia chose that moment to let out a soft cry, squirming against her chest. "I'm so sorry," Amara stammered, fumbling for the door handle. "I thought you were my ride." "We'll go right now." "Hold up," a gravelly voice called from the driver's seat. A stocky man in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair and a thick Atlanta drawl, turned around. "It's pouring cats and dogs out there, boss. You really gonna kick a lady and a baby to the curb?" The man in the suit, Elijah Morgan, though Amara didn't know his name yet, shot his driver a look that could have frozen the rain. "Marv, stay out of this." But his eyes flicked back to Amara, lingering on Nia's tiny knit cap, peeking out from her jacket. Something in his expression softened, just a fraction, before the arrogance snapped back into place. "Where are you headed in such a hurry anyway? In this weather with a kid? Amara froze, her hand still on the door. Every instinct screamed to get out, to run back into the rain and away from this rich guy's judgment, but the storm outside was relentless, and Naya's whimpers were turning into full-on cries. She swallowed her pride. "I've got a job interview," she said, keeping her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. "At Morgan Financial Services on Peachtree. I'm already late." Elijah's eyebrows shot up, a smirk tugging at his lips. "Well, isn't that a coincidence?" He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, studying her like she was a puzzle he hadn't decided to solve. "I'm Elijah Morgan. I own Morgan Financial." Amara's stomach dropped. Of all the cars in Atlanta, she'd stumbled into the one belonging to the CEO of the company where she was begging for a job. Her one shot, probably ruined before she even walked through the door. Nia's cries grew louder, and Amara rocked her gently, hyper-aware of her damp clothes, the frayed diaper bag slung over her shoulder, and the way she must look to this man, desperate, out of place, a nobody. "What position?" Elijah asked, his tone more curious than kind. "Administrative assistant," Amara said, her voice barely above a whisper. She braced for the dismissal, the same line she'd heard earlier. "We need someone without distractions." Elijah tilted his head, his smirk fading into something unreadable. "Interesting." He pressed a button on the armrest, and the Tesla's engine hummed to life. "Marv, take us to the office. Seems Miss Wilson." "Amara Wilson," she said, trying to sound confident despite the chaos of the moment. "Miss Wilson's interview is happening tonight." Elijah leaned back, crossing one leg over the other, his eyes never leaving her. "Let's see what you've got." Marv chuckled from the front seat. "Oh, this ought to be good, boss. I'm betting she's got more guts than half the suits in your boardroom." "Marv," Elijah snapped, but there was no real heat in it. He turned back to Amara. "So, Miss Wilson, why should I even consider you for my company? You're late, soaked, and—" He glanced at Nia, who'd quieted down, sucking on her pacifier. "You come with baggage." Amara's jaw tightened. She'd heard worse, but the way he said it, like Nia was a liability, lit a fire in her. "Because I'm good at what I do," she said, meeting his gaze head-on. "I've got a master's in business analytics from Clark Atlanta. Graduated top of my class while working 2 jobs. I'm organized, I'm sharp, and I don't quit. My daughter isn't baggage. She's the reason I'll work harder than anyone you've got." Elijah blinked, clearly not expecting the pushback. Marv let out a low whistle. "Told you, boss. Guts." The Tesla glided through Atlanta's rain-slicked streets, the city's skyline a blur of lights through the tinted windows. Inside, the leather seats were warm, the air faintly scented with expensive cologne. Amara felt like she'd stepped into another world, one where people like Elijah Morgan called the shots, and people like her scrambled to survive. But she wasn't here to beg. She was here to prove herself. "Why the admin job?" Elijah asked, breaking the silence. "With a master's, you could aim higher. Analyst, maybe. Why settle?" Amara hesitated. The truth was raw, humiliating, but she sensed he'd see through any lie. "I need stable hours. I need health care. I need something I can count on for Nia." She looked down at her daughter, now dozing against her chest, her tiny eyelashes fluttering. "Dreams don't pay the bills." For a moment, Elijah didn't respond. His face was a mask, but something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, maybe, or respect. "Fair enough," he said finally. "Life's not exactly a straight line, is it?" "Nope," Amara said, her voice softer now. "But you make it work." Marv snorted. "Listen to her, boss. She's spittin' facts." Elijah shot him a look, but didn't argue. The car pulled up to a gleaming glass tower, the Morgan Financial logo glowing in gold above the entrance. Amara's heart raced. This was it. Her shot, handed to her by a fluke in the back of a stranger's car. She didn't know whether to thank the rain or curse it. "All right, Miss Wilson," Elijah said, opening the door as the rain slowed to a drizzle. "Let's see if you're as good as you say. Follow me." Amara stepped out, Nia stirring in her arms. The sidewalk was slick, reflecting the city's lights like a mirror. Elijah strode toward the building, not bothering to check if she was keeping up. Marv, climbing out of the driver's seat, gave her a wink. "Don't let him scare you, kid. He's all bark, no bite." "Well, mostly." "Thanks," Amara said, managing a small smile. She adjusted Nia's carrier, squared her shoulders, and followed Elijah into the tower. The lobby was all marble and chrome, the kind of place that screamed money. A security guard nodded at Elijah, barely glancing at Amara. She felt like an intruder, her wet sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. In the elevator, Elijah stood with his hands in his pockets, his posture relaxed, but his eyes sharp. "You nervous?" he asked, almost like he was testing her. "Wouldn't you be?" Amara shot back, then immediately regretted it. Don't sass the CEO, she thought. But Elijah's lips twitched, almost a smile. Touché. The elevator dinged, opening onto the executive floor. The offices were dark, most employees long gone. But Elijah led her to a sleek conference room with a view of Atlanta's skyline. He gestured to a chair. "Sit. Let's make this quick." Amara settled Nia in her lap, praying her daughter would stay quiet. She pulled out her resume, slightly crumpled from the rain, and slid it across the table. Elijah scanned it, his expression unreadable. "Clark, Atlanta, huh? Not bad. Why'd you stop at admin? You could have been climbing the corporate ladder by now." "I was on track," Amara said, her voice steady. "Then my mom got sick. Cancer. I took care of her, put my career on hold. After she passed, I found out I was pregnant. Plans change." Elijah's eyes flicked to Nia, then back to her. "That's a lot to carry." "I manage," Amara said simply. She wasn't here for pity. He leaned back, tapping a pen against the table. "All right, let's cut to it. Why should I hire you? Give me one reason, no fluff." Amara took a deep breath. "Because I'll outwork everyone in this building. I've been juggling grad school, jobs, and a baby. I know efficiency, I know value, and I know what it means to deliver under pressure. You won't find anyone hungrier." Elijah studied her for a long moment, his green eyes piercing. Then he nodded, almost to himself. "Okay, Miss Wilson, you've got my attention. Start Monday, 8 a.m. Sharp. Don't be late again." Amara blinked, stunned. "Just like that?" "Just like that," he said, standing. "Don't make me regret it." She rose, clutching Nia, her mind reeling. A job, a real job with benefits at one of Atlanta's top firms. It felt too good to be true, and that scared her. Things that seemed perfect usually had a catch. As they rode the elevator back down, Elijah glanced at her. "You're not what I expected, you know." "What'd you expect?" Amara asked, raising an eyebrow. "Someone less," he said, then caught himself. "Forget it. Get some rest. You've got a big week ahead." Marv was waiting outside, leaning against the Tesla. "Well, you survived the Dragon's Den?" "Barely," Amara said, a tired smile breaking through. "Thanks for the backup." "Anytime, kid," Marv said, tipping an imaginary hat. "Boss, you taking her home, or you gonna make her walk in this mess?" Elijah rolled his eyes. "Get in, Miss Wilson." "I'm not that heartless." Amara slid into the back seat, Nia fast asleep against her. As the Tesla pulled away, she looked out at the rain-soaked city, her mind racing. She'd gotten the job, but at what cost? Elijah Morgan wasn't just her boss. He was a force of nature, all arrogance and sharp edges. Could she handle him, this place, this world? Or had she just stepped into something she couldn't control? One thing was certain. Her life had just taken a turn she never saw coming, and it all started with the wrong car on a rainy night. What do you think Amara will do to navigate this high-stakes world and stand up to a cocky millionaire like Elijah? Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below to share your thoughts. We're just getting started. Amara Wilson stepped off the elevator onto the executive floor of Morgan Financial Services, her heart pounding like a drum line at a homecoming game. It was Monday, her first day, and the sleek glass and chrome offices felt like a different planet from the cramped Decatur apartment she shared with Nia. She adjusted the strap of her diaper bag, now doubling as a briefcase, and smoothed her navy blazer, a thrift store find she'd ironed twice to look crisp. Nia, strapped to her chest in a carrier, gurgled happily, oblivious to the stakes. Amara had spent the weekend scrambling to arrange daycare, dipping into her meager savings to secure a spot at a center near the office. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. She just had to make this job work. The receptionist, a young woman with a tight bun and a smile that didn't reach her eyes, glanced up. "You must be the new hire. Miss Wilson, right?" "That's me," Amara said, forcing a confident nod. "Mr. Morgan's expecting you." Down the hall, last office on the right. The receptionist's eyes flicked to Nia, her lips pursing slightly. Amara bristled, but kept her cool. She'd faced that look before. Judgment disguised as curiosity. She wasn't here to make friends. She was here to keep the lights on. The hallway was lined with framed awards and photos of Atlanta's skyline, the kind of decor that screamed money. Amara's sneakers, still damp from last week's rain, squeaked faintly on the polished floor. She reached Elijah Morgan's office, A corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Peachtree Street. Elijah stood behind a massive desk, scrolling through his phone, his tailored suit as impeccable as it had been in the Tesla. He looked up, his green eyes sharp and unreadable. "You're early," he said, almost like he was surprised. "Good. Let's get you settled." "Thanks for the chance, Mr. Morgan," Amara said, shifting Nia's weight. "I won't let you down. Call me Elijah," he said, waving a hand, "and don't make promises yet. This place moves fast. You ready to keep up?" Amara met his gaze. Born ready, his lips twitched, that almost smile she'd seen in the car. "We'll see. Follow me." He led her to a small office nearby, equipped with a computer, a phone, and a stack of files. It wasn't fancy, but it had a door and a window, more than she'd expected for an admin role. "Your desk," Elijah said. "You'll be handling schedules, reports, and whatever else I throw your way. First task, fix the formatting on the quarterly budget report. It's a mess. Due by noon." "Noon?" Amara glanced at her watch. It was 8:15. "Got it." Elijah raised an eyebrow, like he was waiting for her to crack. When she didn't, he nodded. "Impress me, Miss Wilson." Then he was gone, his footsteps echoing down the hall. Amara set Nia's carrier on the floor, pulling out a rattle to keep her occupied. "All right, baby girl," she whispered. "Mommy's got work to do." She dove into the report, her fingers flying over the keyboard. The numbers were familiar. Her master's in business analytics had trained her for this, but the software was new, and the clock was ticking. By 9:30, she was deep in Excel, untangling a mess of misaligned columns and typos, when a knock interrupted her. A man stood in the doorway, mid-30s, with warm brown skin and a nervous smile. He held 2 coffee cups, one precariously close to spilling. Hi, you're Amara, right? I'm Jasper Reed, financial analyst. Thought you might need a pick-me-up." "Thanks," Amara said, taking the cup he offered. "Appreciate it." "No problem. First days are rough, and—" Jasper's hand jerked, splashing coffee across her desk. "Oh, shoot. I'm so sorry." He grabbed a tissue from her desk, dabbing at the mess, his face turning redder by the second. Amara laughed, waving him off. "It's fine, really. Just a little caffeine casualty." Jasper groaned. "I'm such a klutz. If you need help with anything, software reports, whatever, I'm down the hall. I swear I'm better with numbers than coffee." "Noted," Amara said, still chuckling. Jasper's awkwardness was endearing, a stark contrast to Elijah's polished intensity. She liked him already. By 11:45, she'd finished the report, double-checked it, and sent it to Elijah. She leaned back, exhaling. Nia cooed, chewing on her rattle. "We did it, kiddo," Amara murmured. But the victory was short-lived. At noon, Elijah strode in, holding a printed copy of the report, his expression unreadable. "This is adequate," he said, tossing it onto her desk, "but the font's inconsistent. And you missed a decimal in section 3. Fix it by end of day." Amara's jaw tightened. She'd caught that decimal, but hadn't had time to revise. "I'll get it done," she said, keeping her voice even. "Good," Elijah said, already halfway out the door. "And next time, don't make me ask twice." She stared at the report, frustration simmering. Adequate? She'd busted her tail to clean up his team's mess, and that's all he had? But she swallowed it down. This wasn't about ego, it was about Nia. The rest of the week was a blur of tasks, scheduling meetings, fielding calls, and deciphering Elijah's cryptic emails. He was demanding, nitpicking everything from her email signatures to the way she organized his calendar. But Amara held her own, learning the ropes and catching errors in reports that even senior analysts missed. Jasper became a regular visitor, offering tips and more coffee with fewer spills. He was sweet, if a bit shy, always lingering a little longer than necessary. On Thursday, Trouble walked in wearing stilettos. Victoria Tori Langley, 25, blonde, and dripping in designer labels, sauntered into Amara's office like she owned it. Her father was a major partner at Morgan Financial, and she made sure everyone knew it. "You're the new girl, right?" Tori said, her smile as fake as her lashes. "Amara, is it?" "That's me," Amara said, looking up from her computer. Nia was at daycare, thank goodness. Tori's vibe screamed no kids allowed. "Word is you got hired after some dramatic entrance," Tori said, leaning against the desk, her perfume overwhelming. "Something about showing up soaked with a baby?" Bold move. Amara's guard went up. "I got hired because I'm qualified. Master's from Clark, Atlanta. Top of my class. You need something, or are you just here to chat?" Tori's smile tightened. "Oh, no need to get defensive. Just curious how a single mom keeps up with a place like this. It's fast-paced, you know, not exactly family-friendly. I manage, Amara said, her tone cool. Anything else? Tori shrugged, turning to leave. Nope, just wanted to say hi. Good luck, Amara. You'll need it. Her heels clicked down the hall, leaving a chill in the air. Amara exhaled, her hands trembling slightly. She'd dealt with people like Tori before. Folks who saw her skin, her situation, and assumed she didn't belong. But this wasn't college or her old retail job. This was Morgan Financial, and the stakes were higher. That evening, she called Lila Brooks, her best friend since their days at Clark Atlanta. Lila, a 33-year-old hairdresser and single mom, was the queen of keeping it real. Amara sat on her sagging couch, Nia asleep in her crib, as Lila's voice crackled through the phone. Girl, you telling me this bougie chick tried to shade you on day 4? Nah, she's just mad you're out here killing it. She's not wrong, though, Amara said, rubbing her temples. This place is intense. And Elijah? He's like a robot with a Rolex. Nothing I do is good enough. Sounds like he's testing you, Lila said. You know how these rich folks are? Think they can intimidate us out of their world. Keep doing you, Mara, and come to Sunday Soul Brunch this weekend. You need some gumbo and good vibes to recharge. Amara smiled. You had me at gumbo. Friday brought a new challenge. During a team meeting, Amara presented a revised report, her first big moment in front of the analysts. She'd spotted a budgeting error that could have cost the company thousands and fixed it overnight. Jasper gave her a thumbs up from across the room, but Tori, sitting near the front, smirked. When Amara finished, Tori raised her hand. Great work, Amara, but I'm curious. How do you balance all this with, your responsibilities at home? Must be tough. The room went quiet. Amara's face burned, but she kept her voice steady. I balance it the same way anyone else does, by being good at my job. The report's accurate, and it's on time. Any questions about the numbers? Tori's smirk faltered. Jasper coughed, hiding a grin. Elijah, at the head of the table, watched the exchange, his expression unreadable. No questions, he said. Good catch, Miss Wilson. Moving on. After the meeting, Jasper caught up with her in the break room. Yo, you shut Tori down like a pro. She's been trying to flex since her dad got her that internship. Thanks, Amara said, pouring coffee. She's not my biggest fan. Girl, she's not anybody's fan, Jasper said, then hesitated. Hey, if you ever need backup or just want to grab lunch, I'm around. Amara smiled. I'll keep that in mind. But the whispers started that afternoon. She overheard 2 analysts by the copier. Heard she got the job because Elijah felt sorry for her. Showed up with a baby, all dramatic. Another chimed in. Yeah, Tori said she's in over her head. Single mom. No experience. Recipe for disaster. Amara's stomach twisted. Tori was spreading poison and it was working. She wanted to confront her. But what good would that do? She needed this job, not drama. Instead, she threw herself into work, staying late to perfect every task, even as Elijah's critiques piled up. This email's too wordy. The schedule's off by an hour. Don't make me micromanage you, Miss Wilson. By Saturday night, she was exhausted, sprawled on her couch with Nia dozing on her chest. Her phone buzzed. Lila, reminding her about Sunday Soul Brunch. Amara almost skipped it, but the thought of Lila's cooking and the familiar warmth of their community pulled her out of her funk. Sunday morning, she dressed Nia in a tiny yellow sundress and drove to Lila's house in West End, a cozy bungalow with a porch full of potted plants. The air smelled of cornbread and collards, and Aretha Franklin's voice floated from a Bluetooth speaker. A dozen folks, friends, neighbors, church members, milled around, laughing and swapping stories. Lila, her braids piled high, hugged Amara tight. There's my corporate queen. How's that fancy job treating you? Like a marathon with no finish line, Amara said, setting Nia in a playpen with Lila's son, Jamal. And there's this girl, Tori, stirring up mess. Thinks I don't belong 'cause I'm not some trust fund kid. Leela snorted, handing her a plate of gumbo. Let her try. You're Amara freaking Wilson. You graduated top of your class while working 2 jobs and caring for your mama. Ain't no Tori gonna dim your light. Amara laughed, the tension in her chest loosening. She took a bite of gumbo, the spicy warmth grounding her. This was home, her people, her roots. Clark Atlanta. Sunday brunches, the resilience of her community. No matter what Morgan Financial threw at her, she'd keep fighting. For Nia, for herself. As she drove home, Nia babbling in the car seat, Amara made a decision. She wasn't just going to survive this job, she was going to own it. Tori's whispers, Elijah's nitpicking, the sideways glances, they wouldn't break her, but a small voice in her head wondered, could she really thrive in a world that felt so foreign? And what was Elijah's deal? Was he testing her, or did he secretly want her to fail? One thing was clear. The corporate jungle was no joke, and Amara was just getting started. Amara Wilson stood in her tiny Decatur apartment, staring at her reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror. The black dress she'd borrowed from Lila hugged her curves, its simple elegance a far cry from her usual thrift store blazers. Tonight was Morgan Financial's annual charity gala, a glitzy affair at the Fox Theater, and Elijah had insisted she attend. "It's good for networking," he'd said, his tone clipped but not unkind. Amara wasn't so sure. Networking in a room full of Atlanta's elite sounded like walking into a lion's den with a stake strapped to her back, but she couldn't say no, not when she was still proving herself. Nia, now 7 months old, babbled from her high chair in the kitchen, smacking a plastic spoon against a bowl of mashed peas. Amara smiled, adjusting her hoop earrings. "Wish me luck, baby girl. Mommy's about to swim with sharks." She'd arranged for Lila to babysit, a relief since daycare wasn't an option for late nights. Lila had promised Nia a mini soul party with music and snacks, which made Amara feel slightly less guilty about leaving her. A knock at the door startled her. She opened it to find Marv Russo, Elijah's driver, leaning against the frame, his graying hair peeking out from a flat cap. "Evening, Amara," he said with a grin. "Boss sent me to fetch you. Said you shouldn't be taking the bus to no fancy gala." Amara raised an eyebrow. "He's worried about my transportation now?" Marv chuckled. "Let's just say he's got a soft spot he don't like admitting. You ready to dazzle him?" "As I'll ever be," Amara said, grabbing her purse and kissing Nia's forehead. "Be good for Auntie Lila, okay?" The Tesla glided through Atlanta's evening traffic, the city's skyline twinkling like a sea of stars. Marv kept the mood light, regaling her with stories of Elijah's less-than-stellar moments. "You know he tried cooking once. Burned a pot of spaghetti so bad the fire alarm went off. Man's got more money than sense sometimes." Amara laughed, the knot in her stomach loosening. "I'll believe it when I see it." "Oh, you will," Marv said, winking. "Stick around, kid." At the Fox Theater, the gala was in full swing. Chandeliers cast golden light over men in tuxedos and women in gowns, their laughter mingling with the clink of champagne flutes. Amara stepped inside, her heels clicking on the marble floor, and immediately felt out of place. She spotted Elijah across the room, looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine in a black tux, chatting with a group of gray-haired executives. He caught her eye and nodded, a brief acknowledgement that sent a strange flutter through her chest. Before she could approach, Tori Langley materialized, her red gown shimmering like she was auditioning for a Hollywood premiere. "Amara, you made it," she said, her voice dripping with fake warmth. "Love the dress. Very understated." "Thanks," Amara said, keeping her tone neutral. "Yours is loud." Tori's smile tightened, but she pressed on. "Must be tough, coming to these things with so much on your plate. You know, single mom, new job. Elijah's really taking a chance on you." Amara's jaw clenched. "I earned my spot, Tori. Same as anyone here." "Of course," Tori said, patting her arm like they were old friends. "Just don't spread yourself too thin. Wouldn't want you burning out." She sauntered off, leaving Amara fuming. "Girl, don't let that snake get under your skin," a familiar voice said. Amara turned to see Jasper Reed, looking surprisingly sharp in a navy suit, holding 2 glasses of sparkling water. "Tori's been throwing shade since she got here." Amara took a glass, grateful for the friendly face. "She's good at it, I'll give her that." Jasper grinned. "Yeah, but you're better. That report you fixed last week saved my team's bacon. Keep doing you, Amara." "Thanks, Jasper," she said, sipping her drink. His kindness was a lifeline in this sea of strangers, though his lingering gaze made her wonder if he was interested in more than friendship. She pushed the thought aside. Her plate was full enough. The evening wore on, and Amara mingled as best she could, introducing herself to clients and dodging Tori's barbs. She was mid-conversation with a community outreach director when a woman approached, her silver hair swept into an elegant updo, her emerald gown screaming old money. "You must be Miss Wilson," she said, her voice cool and precise. "I'm Eleanor Morgan, Elijah's mother." Amara's stomach flipped. She hadn't expected to meet the matriarch tonight. "Pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Morgan," she said, extending a hand. Eleanor shook it briefly, her eyes scanning Amara like she was a balance sheet. "Elijah mentioned he hired you under Unusual circumstances. A single mother, I understand. Yes, ma'am, Amara said, keeping her tone steady. My daughter, Nia, is my priority, but I'm fully committed to my role here. Of course, Eleanor said, her smile thin. But roles like yours require a certain fit. Our family's reputation depends on it. I'm sure you understand. The words landed like a slap, veiled but sharp. Amara's blood heated. With all due respect, Mrs. Morgan, I'm here because of my skills. My master's from Clark, Atlanta, and my work speak for themselves. It's not an issue. Eleanor's eyebrows lifted. But before she could respond, Elijah appeared, his presence cutting through the tension. Mother, I see you've met Amara, he said, his tone smooth but edged. She's been a game changer for our community initiatives. So I've heard, Eleanor said, her eyes flicking to her son. I was just expressing my interest in her background. Amara held Elijah's gaze, daring him to step in. To her surprise, he did. Amara's background is exactly why she's here, he said. She's sharp, driven, and gets results. We're lucky to have her. Eleanor's lips pursed, but she nodded. I look forward to seeing those results, Miss Wilson. She glided away, leaving Amara's heart racing. Thanks, Amara said quietly, turning to Elijah. Don't thank me, he said, his voice low. You held your own, but watch out for her. She's particular. Noted, Amara said, a wry smile tugging at her lips. For the first time, she saw a crack in Elijah's polished facade, a hint of unease about his mother. It made him seem almost human. The gala ended late, and Amara's feet ached as she stepped into the cool Atlanta night. Marv was waiting with the Tesla, but Elijah waved him off. I'll drive her, he said, surprising her. You head home, Marv. Marv winked at Amara. Don't let him bore you with his stock market talk, kid. Amara laughed, sliding into the passenger seat. The Tesla's interior was as luxurious as she remembered, but Elijah seemed different tonight. Less cocky, more thoughtful. You didn't have to do this, she said as he pulled onto Peachtree Street. You handled a lot tonight, he said, glancing at her. Figured you deserved a break. She studied him, the city lights casting shadows across his face. Why'd you stick up for me back there? With your mom? He hesitated, his hands tightening on the wheel. Because you're good at what you do, and because I know what it's like to be underestimated. Amara raised an eyebrow. You, Mr. Penthouse and Private Driver? He chuckled, a low, warm sound. You'd be surprised. Growing up, I was the kid who didn't fit in. Too nerdy for the cool crowd. Too poor for the rich kids, until my dad's company took off. I learned to fake it. But I see through people like my mother. And Tori. The admission caught her off guard. She hadn't expected him to open up. Not like this. Guess we've both got our battles, she said softly. Yeah, he said, pulling up to a high-rise in Buckhead. Come up for a drink. Non-alcoholic if you want. I owe you after tonight. Amara hesitated. Nia was safe with Lila, and it was just a drink. But something about Elijah's eyes, intense, searching, made her heart skip. One drink, she said. Then I've got to get home. His penthouse was breathtaking. All sleek lines and floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing Atlanta's skyline. A Bluetooth speaker played Aretha Franklin's Respect, a coincidence that made Amara smile. Didn't peg you for a soul fan, she said, accepting a glass of sparkling water. My assistant's playlist, Elijah said, loosening his tie. But it's growing on me. They sat on a plush leather couch, the city lights twinkling below. The conversation flowed easily. Work, Atlanta, their shared love of late-night food trucks. Amara found herself relaxing, the gala's tension fading. Elijah leaned closer, his voice dropping. You were something tonight, Amara. Most people would have folded under my mother's glare. I'm not most people, she said, meeting his gaze. No, you're not, he murmured. The air between them crackled, charged with something new. He reached out, his fingers brushing her hand, and her breath caught. Before she could overthink it, he closed the distance, his lips finding hers in a kiss that was equal parts fire and tenderness. The kiss deepened, and Amara's resolve wavered. His hands slid to her waist, pulling her closer, the fabric of her dress whispering against his tucks. The world narrowed to the heat of his touch, the rhythm of Aretha's voice, the pulse of her own heartbeat. They moved to the couch, her fingers tangling in his hair as he trailed kisses down her neck, each one igniting her skin. The silk of her dress slipped under his hands, and for a moment, she let herself surrender to the desire, to the connection, to the man who saw her when others didn't. But as his hands moved lower, reality crashed in. Nia, her job, the gap between their worlds. She pulled back, breathless, her heart racing. "Elijah, we can't." "I can't." He froze, his eyes searching hers. "Did I?" "No, it's not you," she said, standing, smoothing her dress. "It's me. I've got Nia, this job, everything. I can't mess this up." He nodded, standing too, his expression a mix of regret and understanding. "I get it. I pushed too fast." "It's not just that," she said, her voice shaky. "You're my boss. You're this." She gestured to the penthouse, the city at his feet. "I'm just trying to keep my head above water." "You're more than that," he said, his voice firm. "And I'll wait, Amara, however long it takes." She looked at him, torn between wanting to stay and needing to run. "I should go," she said finally. "Lila's waiting." He drove her home in silence, the Tesla's hum the only sound. At her apartment, he walked her to the door, his hands in his pockets. "Good night, Amara," he said, his voice soft. "Good night," she replied, slipping inside. As the door closed, she leaned against it, her heart still racing. She'd felt something tonight, something real, but was it worth the risk? Across town, Tori Langley sipped champagne in her condo, scrolling through photos from the gala. One caught her eye. Elijah and Amara, heads close, his hand on her arm, her lips curled into a smile. "Oh, Amara," she murmured. "You're in way over your head." Amara Wilson sat at her desk in Morgan Financial's sleek office, the hum of the air conditioning barely drowning out the whispers echoing in her head. It was Wednesday, 3 weeks since the charity gala, and the air at work had turned sour. She'd felt it Monday morning. Sideways glances from colleagues, hushed conversations that stopped when she entered the break room. By Tuesday, the rumors had a name. Tori Langley. Word was, Tori had let slip at a team happy hour that Amara only got her job because Elijah Morgan felt sorry for her, spinning a tale of a desperate single mom who'd played the sympathy card to land a gig she wasn't qualified for. Worse, some whispered Amara had charmed Elijah into fast-tracking her to a director role, implying something far uglier than pity. Amara's fingers hovered over her keyboard, her latest report, a proposal for a mobile banking program for Atlanta's underserved neighborhoods, half finished. She'd been promoted to director of the Community Financial Division last week, a role that matched her master's in business analytics and her passion for helping people like her mom, who'd struggled with predatory lenders. But now every keystroke felt like a battle against the doubt creeping into her mind. Did Elijah promote her because she deserved it? Or was there truth to Tori's poison? A soft knock pulled her from her thoughts. Jasper Reed stood in the doorway, his usual easy smile replaced by a frown. "Yo, Amara, you got a sec?" he asked, holding a coffee cup, thankfully not spilling it this time. "Sure," she said, forcing a smile. "What's up?" Jasper closed the door behind him, lowering his voice. "I overheard some folks in the analyst pool talking trash. Tori's been saying you fudged your resume, that your degree's fake or something. I shut it down, but it's getting messy." Amara's stomach twisted. "Fake? My degree from Clark Atlanta's as real as it gets. I worked my tail off for it." I know, Jasper said, raising his hands. "But Tori's got clout. Her dad's a big shot. People listen to her. I just thought you should know." "Thanks, Jasper," Amara said, her voice tight. "I appreciate the heads up." He hesitated, shifting his weight. "Look, if this place gets too toxic, I got contacts at other firms. You're too good to deal with this nonsense. Just saying." Amara studied him, catching the sincerity in his eyes. And something else, a quiet hope she wasn't ready to address. Jasper had been a rock these past weeks, always ready with a joke or a kind word. But his offer felt like more than friendship. "I'm not running," she said firmly. "Not yet," he nodded, a small smile breaking through. "All right, tough girl, but I'm here if you need me." As he left, Amara's phone buzzed. A text from Lila Brooks, her best friend. "Heard about the office tea. Tori's out here acting a fool. You good? Sunday Soul Brunch this weekend. You need some cornbread and clarity." Amara smiled despite herself. Lila's brunch was her sanctuary. A slice of home filled with laughter, soul music, and the community that had carried her through her mom's illness and Nia's birth. She typed back, "I'm hanging in. Brunch sounds perfect." But the rumors weren't just office gossip. By Thursday, an anonymous email circulated to the senior leadership team, alleging Amara had falsified her credentials and was unfit for her director role. The email demanded an investigation, citing concerns about favoritism from Elijah. Amara's heart sank when she saw it, forwarded to her by a sympathetic colleague. The language was polished, but Tori's fingerprints were all over it. She marched to Elijah's office, her pulse pounding. His assistant waved her in, and she found him at his desk, scrolling through his tablet, his navy suit as pristine as ever. "Amara," he said, looking up, his green eyes narrowing at her expression. "What's wrong?" "You see the email?" she asked, her voice steady despite the storm inside. He nodded, his jaw tightening. "I did. It's garbage. I've already told HR to trace it." "Trace it all you want," she said, crossing her arms. "It's Tori, and it's working. People are talking, Elijah. They think I'm here because you— What? Felt bad for me? Or worse?" His eyebrows shot up. "Worse? Don't play dumb," she snapped. "They're saying I got this job, my promotion, because we're involved, that I'm using you." Elijah leaned back, his expression unreadable. "And you think there's truth to that?" "I don't know what to think," she admitted, her voice dropping. "You hired me after one conversation in your car, promoted me after 2 months. I've got the degree, the skills, but people like Tori and your mom make me feel like I'm fooling myself, like I don't belong." He stood, rounding the desk to stand closer, his voice low but firm. "Amara, you belong here because you're damn good. That mobile banking proposal, it's brilliant. Your work on the community outreach saved us a PR nightmare last quarter. I didn't promote you out of pity or anything else. I did it because you're the best person for the job." She wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at her. "Then why didn't you shut this down sooner?" "You had to know Tori was stirring things up." He hesitated, running a hand through his hair. "I underestimated her. My mother's been pushing me to keep Tori's father happy. He's a key investor. I thought I could handle it without dragging you into the politics." "Well, I'm in it now," Amara said, her eyes blazing. "And I need to know you've got my back, Elijah. Not just words, actions." He held her gaze, something fierce sparking in his eyes. "You'll see, I promise." The next morning, Amara was called to a boardroom meeting, her stomach in knots. The senior leadership team sat around a polished mahogany table, their faces a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Elijah stood at the head, his expression calm but steely. Tori was there too, perched near her father, her red lips curved in a smug smile. Amara's heart raced, but she squared her shoulders, clutching a folder with her credentials, degree, transcripts, references. She wasn't going down without a fight. Wilson, the board chair, a gray-haired man named Harold Vance, began. "We've received concerning allegations about your qualifications. We need to address them." Amara took a deep breath, her voice steady. "I welcome the scrutiny, Mr. Vance. My master's from Clark Atlanta University is verified. Here's the transcript." She slid the folder across the table. "I graduated top of my class while working 2 jobs and caring for my sick mother. My work here, reports, proposals, the mobile banking initiative, stands on its own. If anyone questions my fit, let's talk numbers, not rumors." Harold skimmed the documents, his expression softening. Tori shifted, her smile faltering. "That's all well and good," she said, her voice syrupy. "But perception matters in this industry. Clients expect a certain professionalism. No offense, Amara, but your situation, single motherhood, limited experience, raises questions." Amara's blood boiled, but before she could respond, Elijah cut in, his voice like a blade. "Enough, Tori. This stops now." All eyes turned to him, the room silent. "Amara's credentials are impeccable. Her mobile banking program is projected to bring in $500,000 in revenue next quarter, while serving communities we've ignored for years. That's not just professionalism, that's vision. If anyone here thinks she's unfit, they're welcome to explain why her results don't measure up." Tori's face reddened, but Elijah wasn't done. "As for the email, HR traced it to an external account linked to someone in this room." His gaze locked on Tori, who shrank slightly. "I've instructed legal to pursue defamation charges if it happens again. And Mr. Langley," he turned to Tori's father, "your daughter's internship ends today. We don't tolerate sabotage." The room erupted in murmurs. Tori's father sputtered, but Elijah raised a hand. "This isn't negotiable. Amara's here because she's exceptional. Anyone who can't handle that can find the door." Harold cleared his throat. "I think we're done here. Miss Wilson, thank you for your transparency. You have our full support." Amara nodded, her throat tight with relief and something else. Gratitude. As the room emptied, Elijah caught her arm. "You okay?" he asked, his voice softer now. "Yeah," she said, exhaling. "Thanks for that." "I meant what I said," he replied, his eyes intense. "You're the real deal, Amara. Don't let anyone make you doubt it." She studied him, the arrogance she'd once seen tempered by something warmer, something real. "I won't," she said, a small smile breaking through. "But you owe me coffee for this mess." He chuckled, the sound easing the tension. "Deal. Tomorrow, 8 That evening, Amara sat in her apartment, Nia asleep in her crib, the hum of Atlanta's traffic filtering through the window. She called Lila, spilling the day's drama. "Girl, he shut Tori down in front of everybody," Amara said, still processing. "I didn't expect it. Sounds like Mr. Millionaire's got it bad for you," Lila teased. "You sure you're not catching feelings?" Amara laughed, but her heart skipped. The gala, that kiss in his penthouse, it hadn't left her mind. Elijah was complicated, a mix of cocky and kind, and she wasn't sure where they stood. But today he'd fought for her, no hesitation. It meant something. Sunday arrived, and Amara pulled up to Lila's West End bungalow for Soul Brunch, Nia in a bright orange onesie. The porch was packed with friends, the air thick with the scent of collards and cornbread. Otis Redding's voice crooning from a speaker. Lila hugged her tight. "There's my corporate warrior. Heard you slayed that boardroom dragon." "Barely," Amara said, setting Nia in a playpen with Jamal. "But I'm still standing." "That's my girl," Lila said, handing her a plate. "Now eat. You need strength for whatever Tori's cooking up next." Amara laughed, digging into the gumbo. The brunch was a bomb, the laughter and music reminding her who she was. A daughter of Atlanta, rooted in community, unbreakable. But as she watched Nia giggle with Jamal, her thoughts drifted to Elijah. He'd invited her to dinner tomorrow, just the two of them. No work talk. She'd said yes, but doubt lingered. Could she trust him? Could she trust herself? Monday morning, Amara arrived at work to find a coffee on her desk. A post-it note stuck to it. As promised, she smiled, shaking her head. Elijah was trying, and maybe, just maybe, she was ready to let him in. But as she opened her email, a new message caught her eye, from an unknown sender. "Watch your back, Miss Wilson. You're not as untouchable as you think." Her smile faded. Tori was down but not out, and Amara had a sinking feeling the fight was far from over. Amara Wilson stood in the middle of a red-brick townhouse in Decatur, Georgia, her sneakers echoing on the hardwood floors. Sunlight streamed through bay windows, casting warm patterns across the empty living room. Nia, now 8 months old, toddled in her arms, pointing at a squirrel darting across the small backyard visible through a glass door. Elijah Morgan stood beside them, his usual tailored suit swapped for a casual sweater and jeans, his green eyes bright with something Amara hadn't seen before. "Hope, what do you think?" Elijah asked, his voice softer than usual. "It's not my penthouse. It's a home for us." Amara's heart skipped. 2 weeks ago, he'd dropped a bombshell. He'd bought this townhouse, a 3-bedroom with a fenced yard and a cozy porch, as a fresh start for her, Nia, and him. Her apartment lease was up next month, and the landlord had jacked up the rent by 15%, a hit her budget couldn't take, even with her director's salary at Morgan Financial. Moving in with Elijah made sense on paper. Better neighborhood, top-rated preschools nearby, financial stability, but her heart was another story. The gala kiss, the boardroom showdown, Tori Langley's venomous email. They'd brought her and Elijah closer, but trust was a fragile thing. Could she bet her daughter's future on a man whose world was so different from hers? "It's beautiful," Amara said, running her hand along the kitchen's stone countertop. "But Elijah, this is huge. Nia and we're a package deal, and our life's not exactly penthouse material." "That's why I chose this," he said, stepping closer. "It's not my world or yours, it's ours. A place we build together. No expectations, no pressure. Just us." Nia squealed, reaching for Elijah's watch, and he let her grab it, his smile softening. Amara watched them, her chest tightening. Nia adored Elijah, and he was patient with her in a way that melted Amara's defenses. But doubt lingered, fed by a surprise visit last week from Eleanor Morgan, Elijah's mother. Eleanor had shown up at Amara's office, her emerald eyes cold as she warned, "My son's father made promises too, then chose his empire over me." Elijah's cut from the same cloth. "Be careful, Miss Wilson." The words had shaken Amara, tapping into her deepest fear, that Elijah's devotion would fade once the novelty wore off, leaving her and Nia heartbroken. "I need time," Amara said, meeting his gaze. "This isn't a no, but I need to be sure." For Nia, Elijah nodded, disappointment flickering in his eyes, but acceptance too. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. The next day, Amara threw herself into work, her mobile banking program gaining traction with Atlanta's underserved communities. Jasper Reed stopped by her office, his usual coffee cup in hand, his smile hesitant. Heard about the townhouse, he said, leaning against the doorframe. Big move. You okay with it? Amara sighed, spinning her pen. I don't know, Jasper. It's perfect, but what if it's too perfect? What if I'm setting Nia up for a fall? Jasper sat across from her, his brown eyes earnest. Look, Amara, I'm not gonna lie. I've got feelings for you. Have for a while. Her breath caught, but he raised a hand. I know you're with Elijah, and I respect that. But you deserve someone who's all in, no games. If he's not that guy, you don't have to settle. Amara's throat tightened. Jasper's confession was a curveball, his kindness a stark contrast to Elijah's intensity. But as she looked at him, she realized her heart had already chosen. Jasper, you're amazing, she said gently. But it's Elijah. I just need to figure out if I can trust it. He nodded, a wry smile breaking through. Can't blame a guy for trying. I'm still here, though. Friend, coffee supplier, whatever you need. Thanks, she said, squeezing his hand. His words lingered, though, forcing her to confront her feelings. She loved Elijah. Admitting it to herself was terrifying. But love wasn't enough if it meant risking Nia's stability. That evening, Amara called Lila Brooks, her voice shaking as she recounted Eleanor's warning and Jasper's confession. Lila, stirring a pot of gumbo over the phone, didn't miss a beat. Girl, Elijah's mama sounds like she's projecting her own baggage. And Jasper? Sweet, but he's playing it safe. Elijah's out here buying houses for you and Nia. That's not small. Question is, you scared of him or yourself? Myself, Amara admitted, cradling Nia on her lap. What if I let him in and it all falls apart? Then you pick up the pieces like you always do, Lila said. But you can't live half in, half out. Trust your gut, Mara. Sunday Soul Brunch at Lila's was a lifeline. The West End bungalow buzzed with laughter, the air thick with the scent of fried chicken and collards. Aretha Franklin's A Natural Woman blasting from the speaker. Amara sat on the porch, Nia playing with Jamal in a pile of toys, as Lila handed her a sweet tea. So? Lila asked, raising an eyebrow. You moving in with Mr. Millionaire or what? I'm leaning yes, Amara said, sipping her tea. But I need to talk to Elijah first. Clear the air about his mom, about everything. That's my girl, Lila said, clinking her glass against Amara's. Keep it real and don't let nobody, mom or not, mess with your peace. Monday brought a surprise. Elijah texted her mid-morning. Dinner tonight, just us. I know a spot, Amara agreed, her nerves tingling. She dropped Nia at Lila's, slipped into a blue dress that made her feel like she could take on the world, and met Elijah at a cozy bistro in Midtown, its exposed brick walls and candlelit tables a far cry from his usual flashy haunts. He was already there, in a black button-down, his hair slightly mussed, like he'd run his hands through it. You look... Wow, he said, standing as she approached, his eyes tracing her with quiet admiration. Thanks, Amara said, sliding into her seat. You clean up nice yourself. They ordered, catfish for her, steak for him, and the conversation flowed, light at first. Nia's new obsession with stacking blocks, Elijah's failed attempt to make cornbread, Marv still laughing about the smoke alarm. But as the mains arrived, Amara steeled herself. Elijah, we need to talk about your mom. His fork paused. What did she do now? She came to my office, Amara said, her voice steady. Said you're like your dad. Promises big, then bails when it gets real. I need to know if she's right. Elijah's jaw tightened, but he didn't look away. She's not. My dad was obsessed with his legacy. Left us high and dry when I was a kid. I built Morgan Financial to prove I wasn't him, but I've made mistakes, pushed people away. But you and Nia? You're not a game to me, Amara. You're everything. Her heart thudded. Then why didn't you tell me about her? Or about Tori's dad pressuring you? He sighed, setting down his fork. I thought I could shield you from the mess. My family, the politics. I was wrong. I should have been up front. But I'm here now, and I'm all in. If you'll have me. She studied him, the sincerity in his eyes cutting through her doubt. I'm scared, she admitted. But I'm in too. For Nia, for us. His face broke into a smile, the kind that made her breath catch. Good, because I've got something else to show you. Dessert arrived. A chocolate cake, rich and decadent, a nod to their first dinner. Elijah reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. Amara's heart stopped. Elijah, hear me out. he said, opening the box to reveal a diamond ring, elegant and simple, sparkling in the candlelight. He slid from his chair, kneeling beside her, oblivious to the diners turning to watch. Amara Wilson, you walked into my life by accident, but loving you is the most deliberate thing I've ever done. You and Naya have shown me what matters. Family, trust, home. I want to build that with you every day, no matter what comes. Will you marry me? Tears pricked her eyes, the weight of the moment overwhelming. The journey from that rainy night to this candlelit table felt like a miracle. Yes, she whispered. Then louder, yes, Elijah Morgan, I'll marry you. He slipped the ring onto her finger, and the restaurant erupted in applause. He stood, pulling her into a kiss that tasted of chocolate and promise, her heart soaring. As they sat, laughing through tears, she knew she'd made the right choice. A month later, they moved into the Decatur townhouse, a whirlwind of boxes and laughter. Lila helped unpack, teasing Elijah about his fancy plates while Nia helped by scattering toys. That night, after a takeout dinner on the living room floor, Amara put Nia to bed in her new room. The walls painted soft yellow, a stuffed elephant tucked beside her. In their bedroom, Elijah lit candles, the flickering light casting shadows across the stone walls. Otis Redding's "That's How Strong My Love" is played softly from a speaker, a nod to their shared love of soul. Amara stepped out of the bathroom in a silk slip, her hair loose, her ring catching the light. Elijah's breath hitched, his eyes tracing her. "You're beautiful," he said, crossing the room to pull her close. They swayed to the music, her head against his chest, his hands warm on her waist. "This feels right," she murmured, her fingers brushing his neck. "It's perfect," he said, his voice rough with emotion. Their lips met, slow at first, then deepening, a fire igniting between them. His hands slid under her slip, tracing her curves, each touch sparking heat. She guided him to the bed, her confidence matching his desire, their movements a dance of trust and love. The silk pooled on the floor, and as they moved together, the world faded. Only them, this moment, their home. His lips found her shoulder, her hands gripped his back, and when he touched her growing belly, Amara was 3 months pregnant, a joyful surprise. They both paused, laughing softly, their connection deeper than ever. Nia's voice crackled through the baby monitor. "Mommy, Daddy, Nia want water." They burst out laughing, the spell broken, but the warmth lingering. Elijah kissed her forehead. "I'll get it," as he padded to Nia's room. Amara lay back, the candles flickering. This was home, not just the house, but them, a family. The next week, Eleanor visited, her expression guarded but softer. "I was wrong about you," she said, handing Amara a quilt for Nia, handmade with care. "Elijah's different with you, happier." "Thank you," Amara said, accepting the olive branch. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. At Sunday Soul Brunch, Lila raised a glass to Amara and Elijah. Proof love can beat the odds. Elijah, attempting a soul step, tripped, sending Naya into giggles. Amara laughed, her heart full. They'd faced challenges, work, family, a new baby, but together they were unstoppable. Amara Wilson stood outside the historic Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, the late afternoon sun casting golden rays across the red brick facade. It was her wedding day, exactly 2 years since that rainy night when she'd stumbled into Elijah Morgan's Tesla, mistaking it for an Uber. Her white lace dress hugged her curves, its train shimmering as a warm September breeze stirred the air. Nia, now 2.5, twirled beside her in a tiny yellow flower girl dress, clutching a basket of rose petals and giggling. Amara's heart swelled, a mix of joy and disbelief. She'd gone from a desperate single mom to a bride, a director at Morgan Financial, and a mother of 2. Her newborn son, James, was 3 months old, sleeping in Lila Brooks' arms nearby. Lila, resplendent in a teal maid of honor gown, adjusted Amara's veil, her braids gleaming under the sun. "Girl, you look like a queen," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Told you that rainy day was gonna lead to something big." Amara laughed, blinking back tears. "You did. Should have listened sooner." "Better late than never," Lila said, winking. "Now go marry that man before he tries cooking cornbread again and burns down the church." The memory of Elijah's kitchen disaster, smoke billowing, Marv cackling, brought a grin to Amara's face. She took a deep breath, smoothing her dress, and nodded. "Let's do this." Inside, the church buzzed with love and soul. Pews overflowed with family, friends, and colleagues. The air alive with the hum of gospel hymns from the choir. Stained glass windows cast jewel-toned light across the crowd, and the scent of magnolias from the altar filled the space. Jasper Reed sat near the front, his navy suit sharp, a proud smile on his face. He'd found love with a teacher named Keisha 6 months ago, but his friendship with Amara remained a quiet anchor. Marv Russo, Elijah's driver, was there too, his flat cap swapped for a fedora, whispering jokes to his wife. Even Eleanor Morgan, Elijah's mother, sat in the second row, her emerald eyes softer than Amara had ever seen. Their relationship wasn't perfect, but Eleanor's quilt for Nia and her tentative acceptance had built a fragile bridge. The organ swelled, and Nia scampered down the aisle, tossing petals with gleeful abandon, earning chuckles from the crowd. Lila followed, her strut pure Atlanta swagger, and then it was Amara's turn. As she stepped forward, alone but steady, her eyes found Elijah at the altar. He stood tall in a black tux, his dark hair catching the light, his green eyes locked on her with a love so fierce it stole her breath. The boy who'd once hidden his insecurities behind arrogance was gone. This was a man who'd chosen her, Nia, and their family, every single day. The ceremony was a blur of vows, tears, and laughter. Elijah's voice cracked as he promised to love you through every storm, like that first rainy night. Amara, her hands in his, vowed to trust you with my heart, and to keep you humble when you get too cocky. The congregation roared, and when the pastor pronounced them husband and wife, Elijah pulled her into a kiss that felt like coming home. Nia clapped, shouting, "Mommy, Daddy!" and the church erupted in applause. The reception spilled into a community center nearby, transformed into a soulful wonderland by Lila's planning. Fairy lights twinkled above long tables, laden with fried chicken, collards, cornbread, and peach cobbler. A DJ spun Otis Redding, Aretha Franklin, and Outkast, the dance floor packed with guests grooving to Hey Ya. Amara and Elijah's first dance was to Sam Cooke's Nothing Can Change This Love, their bodies swaying, her head against his chest, his hands warm on her waist. "You're stuck with me now, Mrs. Morgan," Elijah murmured, his lips brushing her ear. "Good," Amara said, smiling up at him. "But don't think this ring means I'm letting you win at Scrabble." He laughed, the sound rich and free. "Wouldn't dream of it." Nia stole the show, twirling with Marv, who spun her until she squealed. Lila toasted the couple, her speech equal parts heartfelt and hilarious, to Amara, who turned a wrong car into the right love, and Elijah, who learned to dance soul, barely. The crowd cheered, and Elijah, red-faced, took the mic to admit, "She's not wrong, but Amara's worth every misstep." As the night wound down, Amara slipped outside for air, cradling James in her arms. The baby, named for her father, slept soundly, his tiny fist curled against her chest. Elijah joined her, loosening his tie, his eyes soft as he looked at their son. "Hard to believe, isn't it?" he said. 2 years ago I was just a guy with a car. Now, this." Amara leaned into him, the night air warm against her skin. "Best mistake I ever made." He kissed her forehead, his arm around her. "Some might call it fate, or just two people who needed each other," she said, smiling. "Even if one of them had to steal a car to make it happen." "Mistakenly enter," he corrected, grinning. "Legally speaking." They laughed, the sound mingling with the distant music. Inside, the party raged on. But out here, it was just them, their family, their love, their home. 6 months later, Amara stood in the boardroom of Morgan Financial, her navy suit tailored to her post-baby figure, her wedding ring glinting under the fluorescent lights. She was presenting her latest initiative, a financial literacy program for Atlanta high schoolers, aimed at breaking cycles of debt in underserved communities. The board, including a newly retired Harold Vance, nodded approvingly as she outlined projections. 5,000 students reached in year 1, with partnerships from local HBCUs like Clark Atlanta. Elijah, now chairman, sat at the head, his pride evident in his smile. "Outstanding, Mrs. Morgan," he said, earning a playful eye roll from her. "Any objections?" None came. The board voted unanimously, and as the room cleared, Elijah caught her hand. "You're changing lives, you know that?" "We're changing lives," she corrected, squeezing his hand. "This was your vision, too, back home in Decatur." Their townhouse was a lively chaos of toys, baby bottles, and love. Nia, now a chatterbox, greeted them at the door, waving a crayon drawing. "Look, Daddy, it's us and James." The stick figures were wobbly but clear. Amara, Elijah, Nia, and a tiny blob for James, all holding hands under a rainbow. "It's perfect, Nia Bear," Elijah said, scooping her up. "You're an artist." "Like Mommy," Nia said, beaming. Amara laughed, kicking off her heels. She was exhausted. Work, motherhood, and a new baby were no joke, but she'd never felt more alive. James in his bouncer cooed as she kissed his forehead, his dark eyes mirroring Nia's. Elijah joined her, his arm around her waist, and for a moment they stood there, a family forged by chance and choice. Sunday Soul Brunch at Lila's was a weekly ritual now, the West End bungalow a second home. The porch overflowed with laughter, the air thick with the scent of gumbo and sweet potato pie. Otis Redding's Try a Little Tenderness played, and Nia dragged Elijah to dance, her tiny feet stepping on his. He obliged, his soul step still comically offbeat, earning cheers from the crowd. "Man, you're hopeless," Lila called, snapping a video. "Amara, you gotta teach him better." "I'm trying," Amara said, laughing as she cradled James. Elijah caught her eye, winking, and she felt a rush of gratitude. This was her life now, not perfect, but hers, a career that mattered, a family that grounded her, a love that had weathered storms. Later, as they cleaned up, Lila pulled Amara aside. "You good, Mara? Really good?" "Really good," Amara said, her voice steady. "I was scared to trust it, but this is home." Lila hugged her tight. "Told you." That rainy day was a blessing in disguise. Back in Decatur, Amara and Elijah tucked Nia into bed. Her room a cozy haven of yellow walls and stuffed animals. James slept in his crib, and they lingered in the doorway, watching their children. "We did this," Elijah said, his voice low. "You and me, us and a little luck," Amara said, leaning into him. "Or fate, if you're feeling poetic." He chuckled, kissing her temple. "Poetic's my middle name." They moved to the living room, the townhouse settling around them with soft creaks. A photo on the mantel caught Amara's eye. The four of them at the wedding, Nia grinning, James in her arms, Elijah's hand in hers. She traced the frame, her heart full. The journey hadn't been easy. Rumors, doubts, Eleanor's warnings, but every step had led here. Elijah joined her, his arms around her waist. "Penny for your thoughts? Just thinking how far we've come," she said, turning to face him. "From a wrong car to this, a family, a home." "You're my home," he said, his eyes soft. "You and the kids, always will be." She kissed him, slow and deep, the promise of forever in every touch. As they pulled apart, Nia's voice crackled through the baby monitor, sleepy but clear. Home. She wasn't upset, just talking to herself, a habit Amara adored. "Couldn't have said it better," Amara whispered, smiling in the dark. The next morning, Amara stood outside Morgan Financial, the same spot where she'd waited in the rain 2 years ago, desperate for a chance. Now she was a board member, her community programs reaching 5 cities, helping thousands access fair banking. Elijah joined her, briefcase in hand, his smile warm. "Reminiscing, something like that," she said, taking his hand. "Right here, 2 years ago. I thought I'd messed everything up. Happiest mistake of my life," he said, squeezing her hand. "Ready to go? Nia's got dance class, and James needs a diaper change." She laughed, the sound light and free. "Lead the way, Mr. Morgan." As they walked to the car, Amara glanced back at the building, a symbol of her transformation. From a struggling mom to a leader, a wife, a mother of 2, the lesson was clear. Sometimes, the biggest risks, opening the wrong car door, trusting a stranger, loving despite fear, led to the greatest rewards. Her story wasn't a fairy tale. It was better, it was real, hard-won, and hers. What did you think of Amara and Elijah's journey from a rainy mistake to a soulful forever? Subscribe to the channel, drop a comment with your favorite moment, and share your own stories of unexpected love. We'd love to hear them.